Hey guys, this is Black Bolt. Hope you are doing well, staying safe and healthy. This video was recorded on the beautiful rainy afternoon of Monday, November 9th. I actually had a different video teed up in the morning, but unfortunately I lost that content and had to start over. But the purpose of today's video is to talk about why specifically my wife and I chose to go with the Chevy Bolt over different vehicles, or even over a different ICE vehicle. My next video is going to be all about charging, so you definitely want to like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss that content. Earlier today, I drove up to Clearwater, Minnesota, which is about 35 miles from my house, to pick up some fresh beef, and it was raining, it was beautiful, and I'm a city boy in the heart of Trump country, so I was just thinking about why we do the things that we do, why we make the decisions that we make, and I was just thinking, why did I get the Chevy Bolt? And why is that important to the goals that we are trying to reach as a family? So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. My wife and I started looking at electric vehicles seriously in around 2017, and back then the only options really were the Nissan Leaf, which only had a 97-mile range and was ugly as sin and very expensive for what you got out of it, and the Tesla Model S, which was simply as expensive as can be. At the time, I also did some research on the Chevy Bolt with a V, and that was a good car, and that car also has some really good value. But for what I needed to do, I needed a vehicle with 5 seats, so that ruled it out for me because the Volts are 4-seat vehicles. But if you're somebody who worries about range a lot and you want to get into an electric vehicle that will cover 90% of your needs, that's definitely an option that you want to check out. So I'm going to share a little bit of my background, and then we'll get into the factors of how the decision was made. So my dad got my brother and I a Commodore 64 computer back in the early 90s when we were kids, and ever since then I have been fascinated by technology and economics, and today I work in the technology industry, and I find the technology of the Chevy Bolt to be very fascinating. And obviously, if you make a good purchasing decision, you can also save a lot of money and make a lot of money using the Chevy Bolt EV or another electric car if that's what you prefer. The technology that's built into the Chevy Bolt EV is part of what makes it a really good value. Starting with the battery technology, when we looked at the Nissan Leafs, earlier than 2016 came with a 24 kilowatt hour battery and 84 miles of range. And the 2016s and up in the higher trims came with 30 kilowatt hour battery and 170 miles of range. And even that was still on the lower end of what would work for us so far as doing rideshare and side projects. And then also the Nissan Leaf did not have a battery management system, so their cars ended up having a serious issue with degradation. 2018, Nissan released an upgraded Leaf that was a much better looking vehicle and had a 151 mile range and a 40 kilowatt hour battery, so range was no longer an issue, but the battery management system still wasn't really addressed, so degradation may or may not have been an issue on those cars at the time that we were looking. They were still kind of expensive for small cars, and we don't like to pay for depreciation on new vehicles, so we decided that we'd wait another year and track the used car prices to see how they go. December 2018, I got in an accident in a minivan which we had paid cash for and was our only car, and since we didn't have extra money to pay cash for a different vehicle, I ended up having to take a loan for a vehicle, and that kind of changed the math on whether or not an electric car would make sense for us. We went with a 2013 Hyundai Santa Fe Sport at the time, and that's when I started doing rideshare. I made the decision that if I was going to have a car loan, the car was going to pay for itself. The reason we chose to go with a nice car at the time was math. We understood all of the virtues of owning electric vehicles, but at the time Bolts weren't available, and the Nissan Leaf, the 2018 Nissan Leaf, there were some used ones around, but they were still going for over $25,000, and the Santa Fe Sport cost us $13,000. So if for whatever reason you're looking for these cars and the value isn't there for you, don't feel bad about just making a good financial decision and waiting until the price level comes down to what makes sense for you and your family. Doing rideshare, I was able to cover the car payment, insurance, and gasoline, and start paying off additional debt, but I was spending about $400 to $450 a month in gasoline, so that caused me to step up my research of electric cars to see how much they really cost to operate and whether it would make sense to get a more expensive car if the general operating expenses were lower. We moved to our new home in Ramsey, Minnesota in April 2019, and I had to pass the Chevy dealer every single day when I was heading towards the cities. And so one day I saw a Bolt EV parked there, and I went in and talked to the dealer and learned a little bit about the car, but he wasn't super excited about giving me a test drive or even just trying to sell the car to me. So I started doing my own research on the Chevy Bolt EV. In Minnesota, there were literally no used Bolts available, and the new ones, even with discounts, were still a little bit out of our price range. But I like the 60 kilowatt hour battery, 238 miles of range with a battery management system that helps prevent or minimize degradation by heating up the battery when it's cold outside, which is half the year in Minnesota, and cooling it down when it's too hot, which is the other half of the year in Minnesota. Over this whole time, I had been talking to my wife about the virtues of electric cars, how fun they are to drive, and she experienced that when we test drove the 2018 Nissan Leaf, and also how much money we could save by owning one. Because with electricity, for how much I drive, costing around $40 a month, if we could get a car with a payment below $400 a month, then we would essentially be getting a free car because I was already spending $400 to $450 a month on gasoline. Just to clarify something, my wife and I are generally against holding debt. We have paid off over $100,000 in the last 42 months if you count interest, over $97,000 in principal. But in this case, because I was already spending $400 to $450 a month on gasoline, it made sense to replace that expense with something that we actually own. So the car payment goes away, and then we'll have basically an operating expense on our car of $40 to $50 a month in electricity, and then whatever insurance is, but you pay insurance for whatever car you drive anyway. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, check out my video on the value of a used Chevy Bolt, because the prices have dropped to the point where you are going to save a lot of long-term transportation expenses, even if you have to take out a small loan to get your hands on a late model Chevy Bolt EV. Just be sure to pay off the loan quickly so that you are not robbing future wealth from you and your children. The second major reason that we chose to get a Chevy Bolt EV is that I drive a lot. So outside of my 9-to-5 job, which I enjoy very much, we also have a small business, and I also do rideshare on the side. So I end up driving 3,500 to 4,000 miles a month. And I'll break down the math in the next video, but basically over the Santa Fe Sport, we end up saving $400 to $450 a month by owning the Bolt. So that was a really big deal for us as the prices of the Bolt came down. We live about 25 miles from downtown Minneapolis, and we're 25 to 35 miles from most of our friends and family. Whenever we do anything outside of just grocery shopping or regular errands, we're going to end up driving 50 to 70 miles round trip, and so that was just racking up a lot of expenses in gasoline that we didn't want to deal with. We're at the stage of life with 3 growing kids where we just wanted everything to be as streamlined and efficient as possible, and the Chevy Bolt helps us to do that because we no longer have to stop at gas stations to fill up. At the end of the day, when we're done using the car, we simply plug it in and charge it, and it's full in the morning, and that just saves up a lot of time. It's little intangible things like that which makes life much more pleasant, that you don't really notice until you don't have to do things like go to the gas station. And for a while, when the Bolt was our only car, I was going months at a time without stopping for gas or stopping to charge, so that in itself was a blessing. The third major reason that we chose to go with a Chevy Bolt EV is to safeguard our children's futures and the planet. We believe that it is our responsibility to be good stewards of everything that we have been given, whether that's in finances, in relationships, and in how we treat the planet. So whether you believe that greenhouse gases are an issue or not, it is a fact that in March and April, when a lot of places went into lockdown, the quality of their air significantly improved. And electric motors are really good at converting energy into motion. So the equivalent amount of energy in an ICE car and in an electric vehicle, the electric vehicle is going to go farther. And for us personally, in Minnesota using Connexus Energy, our energy for our Chevy Bolt EV is on its own meter, and it is 100% clean energy. So whenever we charge at home, it's clean energy, and all of the charging stations in our area that we use are also clean energy. But even if you live somewhere like West Virginia where it's 100% coal energy, it's still going to be more efficient than the most efficient internal combustion engine vehicle that you can get. And I'm not a math genius, but other people are, so if you want to dispute that, go look at Engineering Explained or Ben Sullen's web pages. They have really good information on those and great videos that you can use to study that subject. But even if you are 100% against preserving the planet, the Bolt is still a great option because it's a great driving car, it's a great value, and it saves you a ton of money after you've already bought it. So in conclusion, the three major reasons that we chose to get a used 2017 Chevy Bolt EV Premier is they are a really good value. I drive more than the average person, so I needed an extended range electric car. And it also helps us reach our goal of having an amazing future for our children in all ways and leaving a legacy for them. And as a reminder, our next video is going to be all about charging, how it works, and how much it costs. So if you got value out of this video or any of the other videos that we've posted, please comment, like, and subscribe. Help support the channel, help the channel grow, and we'll continue providing you with great content. So have a great weekend, guys.